Welcome to another special edition of Between the Studs, where we're talking about the electrical stage of our new home, the Monaco.
Here in our showroom, I get tired of unplugging and put all these wires. There are wires everywhere.
We have to change them out. It's the showroom.
It is, and I would tell you, miles and miles of wire is what you're going to find, especially out at the Monaco, just flowing out of the walls like Rapunzel's hair.
or my, I got new hair too.
Beautiful. Yes, yes, exactly.
We are in one of my most favorite rooms in our 15,000 square foot showroom, the lighting and wiring area. Lighting is so important in today's homes. Wiring, placement of lighting, it's so important to have a well-balanced lighting layout. Fortunately, it's one of the least understood parts of a home.
It's very complicated, but that's why we have professionals like Jenny and Kayla that can help us out. And we have needed the professionals when it comes to lighting the Monaco, because that's almost 10,000 square feet to light.
It is a lot. It is an overwhelming undertaking. And we might be at the electrical stage at the Monaco today, but we had to make our decisions months ago. So we had to understand how the home comes together before it's even framed to make our selections.
Fortunately, we have a lot of things we have to consider. It's just not the decorative lighting. It's placement of lighting. It's balancing the lighting so we have a well-lit home.
Plus, we have to think about where to put outlets, where we put outlets for appliances, switches, doorbells, all of the things. It comes into play.
And as designers, we try to use design aesthetically pleasing items. We use technology. We use so many different things, as well as design for all functionality for everybody. There's a lot of things we think about to go into the overall scheme when it comes to lighting.
Do you know there are nearly 80 million baby boomers in this country? Older people need more light. Just ask Lonnie and Tony.
Yeah.
It takes
We didn't say that.
it takes 3 times as much light for a 60-year-old to see than someone younger. I can attest to that, being almost that age.
Well, good lighting is beneficial for everybody. So that's what we're going to go into some details here. And we used 4 types of lighting throughout the Monaco that Jen's going to explain for us.
Well, let's first start with ambient lighting. So ambient lighting is, you could consider it general lighting. Typically, the first light that comes on when you flip a switch when you walk in the room. It could be like a center ceiling light. It could be an array of recessed can lights laid out. But it's important to have wonderful general lighting because it creates the groundwork. Then as we work up, we talk about task lighting. And task lighting is lighting that is targeted for particular activities. So a good place would be possibly the kitchen, under cabinet lighting, so you have great lighting where you are working and you need that extra lighting for safety and just small work. We use also task lighting would be considered these vanity lights, activities that putting on your makeup and getting ready in the morning, you want plenty of light.
We need plenty of light.
We need plenty of light for that. One of our favorite, as far as designers are concerned and what people see, is decorative lighting. Decorative lighting is purely aesthetic. It helps sets the mood for a room. It helps maybe explain a little bit about what you want your home to look like. So decorative lighting is just going to be the cherry on the top. And then finally, we're talking about accent lighting. Accent lighting is one of my favorites because we are highlighting a particular area. For instance, in our Monaco, we have just our super tall ceiling in the great room. We have a wonderful natural stone fireplace that we are using directional fixtures to help wash the light and create just like an accent. So combine those areas together, creating those layers helps you create a very balanced lighting layout.
Well, we have a lot more to talk about today, and we still have a few last-minute selections we have to make. So, guys, we got to get busy here. We got to figure out, look at all these selections. How are we going to pick?
Welcome to Between the Studs. We are Granite Ridge Builders, custom builders serving northern Indiana, northwest Ohio, and also parts of southern Michigan. We have been building custom homes for almost 2 decades, and we're really passionate about what we do. So join us today as we explore the processes, the trends, and also tips that characterize today's new home. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back. On today's show, Between the Studs, we're going to continue talking about the process of building this amazing Monaco. And it has an architectural style that we call modern European chateau style. We think that this could potentially be ready for you to all come out and see, and we're going to have a grand premiere, and we're saying October, maybe even September. Luke, is that a possibility?
Yeah, let's just stick with October.
No pressure, no pressure. So you're going to enjoy this, and now as we talk about the process, just watch, have fun, enjoy what we're doing out there.
And guys, we finally finished up our framing. We've gone through rough plumbing and we've done our rough HVAC, the heating, ventilation, air conditioning. And now we're on our 11th episode and we're going to talk all about the rough electrical.
Yes, our goal today is to enlighten our audience on the shocking, electrifying subject of electrical.
How many puns can we get into one sentence?
So we're asking you to leave your TV plugged in. You're going to get a charge out of this one.
Well, if you look around your house or whatever space you're in, everything that you can see, everything that you're touching was built with the help of electricity.
So as we were designing the magnificent Monaco, we wanted to make sure to bring the coolest, the best, and the most innovative in lighting products to demonstrate as well as to show our clients.
And designing the electrical phase has definitely consumed a lot of time and tremendous expertise from a lot of people with what we have done out there.
So let's review some of the many decisions that we had to make relating to electricity before we ever thought about starting construction. First of all, there's the major power source, and then there's 2 subpanels in this house. Over 300 dual electrical outlets and 50 ceiling outlets alone.
Well, those 50 ceiling outlets don't include all 100 of the ceiling lights that we're going to have. They had to have all the bracing for. 80 light switches within the house. Yeah, I don't want to turn that open house on and off. No. And also 10 floor outlets.
We have low voltage wiring for under cabinet lighting and for the stair lighting. We've got upgraded wiring for 6 furnaces and an elevator, and then 3 heated floors in our bathrooms.
And of course, wiring for our motorized screens out on the veranda and the patio, outdoor lighting, and then probably my favorite is landscape lighting.
Oh, that's Mike's too.
Yep.
Speaking of outdoor lighting, we needed electrical for the outdoor sprinkler system. Also for the 3 dryers in the home, yes. And we also needed wiring for the USB connectors.
We also have wiring for our AV system for pre-wire as well as speakers. We have wiring for a future backup generator, and we also have them for our smoke detectors.
We've pre-wired the house for smart home features, home office features, and then also internet and Wi-Fi. And then we also wired so that way we can have multiple TVs on one wall, like you could see out at our amazing model in Grayson Heights.
And think about this. Our electricians have to do this all in framing stage, meaning it's pretty hard to tell where it is, but it has to be exact and precise, or it just messes everything else up in the house. So you got to give a lot of credit to what they work with.
And all of those things that you just mentioned, we've got 8 miles, over 8 miles, and still counting with the amount of wiring that's put in this house, which is just incredible. And all those things that you guys mentioned, arguably, probably the most important is the amount of lighting and the placement of lighting in this home.
So we know decorative lighting is important, but it's also important to remember all the different layers of lighting, where lighting is positioned, and how all the lighting works together.
Our design team has spent so much time on this home making sure everything is right. And the nice thing that we've come together with is creating vision boards so the public and everybody can visualize what we have in our heads as well.
It really helps our trade partners and our clients understand what is needed, where it is needed, and also helps clients remember what we picked out.
We rely on our vision boards to help communicate what we're doing in what area. So as you can see on these vision boards, you're notating the style of the fixture, finishes of the fixture, and how it is relating to other items in the room. That helps you to kind of see the whole overall picture.
And Jen, I know our electricians have really appreciated that. They said it has helped so much on their placement.
And besides all of the months and months of decisions that had to be made with regards to electrical and wiring well before we even started this home, there's also the consideration that we have to get power to the house. So we have to get permits, we have to work with the electrical provider to make sure that we can get the amount of power that we need to this house. And we need to fill in that application so therefore we can get it charged up.
So, Luke, I mean, obviously, I totally know how that grid works, but there might be some people out there who don't know. Could you guys explain how we get power to our houses?
Well, it all starts with a power plant. And at the power plant, electricity is generated by coal, gas, or nuclear in our area for the most part.
How about wind too?
And wind and solar, we could go on and on, but the 3 main ones are nuclear, coal, and gas. And then it's sent to a power plant where it's generated and turned into electricity that we can use down the line.
And so from the power plant, they send it to the transformer station where they turn the electricity into a voltage.
Yeah, and that transformer plant's going to step that voltage up so that way we can send this electricity over miles and miles, either overhead or underground, to a subdivision. And in the subdivision, maybe you're sitting at home now and you can look out your window and you can see either a green box in your backyard or front yard, or up on a pole you'll see a round cylinder. That's going to be the transformer that then steps that power back down to a safe level that then gets sent to your house through the electric meter.
See, I told you I knew.
I feel like we just had an episode of the Schoolhouse Rock. Great.
And from that transformer box that's either on your lot or near your lot, it's going to bring the electricity into your home, into your circuit breaker box. This is the box that's usually located out in your garage, or it could be down in your basement.
In the old days, we had fuse boxes, and you'd pop a fuse, and you go in there and you put a penny in there. Your hair would go straight up.
And it definitely wasn't safe, was it?
Wasn't safe.
That doesn't make code anymore.
No,
Sorry.
it doesn't.
Now, when it comes to electricity, there are 4 terms that are a little bit confusing.
Yeah, let's break those down, and I always like to kind of compare it to water going through a hose. Same thing with electricity. So one of the terms that we see is amps or amperage. And amperage is going to be the measurement of the amount of electricity going through, or the amount of water being put through that hose. Another big term is volts or voltage. The volts or voltage is going to be how much pressure is being pushed through that. So do you have that hose on just a trickle, or do you have it full blast? That's going to be what the voltage is. Then there is watts, and a watt is a measurement of power. We used to always refer to our lights as a 100-watt light bulb. We don't do that anymore, but basically it's the amount of power being generated by that electricity. Then there's ohms, and ohms is going to be the size of that wire, or the size of the pipe in this case. So is it a garden hose or is it a fireman hose? That's going to be how you can relate to ohms.
And with electricity, of course, if you are a regular watcher of our show, you know we love history. So let's get into some fun facts and dates about the history of electricity. So over 3,000 years ago, the Egyptians were very well aware of electricity. They knew about lightning. They even knew about electrical fish. They would refer to them as the thunderers of the Nile.
In 600 BC, Thales, a Greek, discovered that if you rubbed amber with silk, it would become electrically charged and attract things. He discovered static electricity.
In 1600, William Gilbert of England coined the term electricity from the electron, the Greek word for amber. In 1752, Benjamin Franklin tied a key to a kite string during a thunderstorm and proved that static electricity and lightning were the same thing.
You know, that's probably one of the most important inventions ever, but it was probably one of the dumbest things I've ever seen anybody do, except for maybe Mike when he stuck his finger in that light socket.
Did you hear Tony say that he's seen him do that?
Yeah.
How old are you?
That experiment, though, saved countless lives. It saved buildings. It even saved whole towns. We use this technology today in our Granite Ridge building homes called a UFA rod.
In 1800, Alessandro Volta invented the electric battery, and that's where we get our term, he was out of Italy, that's where we get our term volt.
It was in 1879, after many experiments, Thomas Edison invented an incandescent light bulb in his Fort Myers, Florida workshop that could be used, ready for this? This light bulb would last 40 hours without burning out, and he used a bamboo filament. In 1880s, Edison, after developing the light bulb running on his DC system, set out to establish DCs, or direct current stations, that would make him rich. However, the limitations of transmitting DC power over long distances without significant power loss stopped him from doing so.
So he approached a new recruit in his company, Nikola Tesla, to develop a practical system to transmit electricity, offered him a reward of 50 grand to do so. Tesla took up the job and designed an AC system, which did not have the power loss present in the DC system. Edison dismissed his idea as utterly impractical and withheld his reward. Rude.
And so devastated, Tesla left Edison and he raised capital to set up an AC power station. George Westinghouse, we've heard that name, of Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing, he bought Tesla's patents and he started setting up these AC power stations to distribute electricity.
Now, obviously, Edison recognized that presented a huge threat to his business, so he started coming up with plans to destroy Westinghouse and topple his business. So he proclaimed AC power was dangerous, and he publicly started electrocuting animals to prove that it was dangerous, one of the most famous being an elephant named Topsy.
Oh, wow.
Poor Topsy.
Now, Mike, I heard that Tesla would stand up on stage and pass electricity through himself just to prove that it was safe.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the same concept, but I used to do this thing with my friends growing up on a farm. We had an electric fence running around to keep the cattle in. Well, I'd have them hold my hand, and then I'd grab onto the electric fence. It would go through me and then shock the person at the end of the line.
That explains so much right now.
Well, let's get back to some dates. In 1925, you realize only half of Americans living in houses had electricity. And worse, 10% of rural farmers only had electricity.
Yeah, it wasn't until 1936 that they did two things that increased that electrical grid. One being the Rural Electrification Act, which did allow electricity to get to a lot of those farmers. The other thing was in 1936, the Boulder Dam opened up. Anybody know where the Boulder Dam is?
Yep.
Renamed to the Hoover Dam.
So by 1945, we had about 85% of Americans had electricity in their home, but by the 1960s, practically everyone had electricity.
That's enough history. Let's get back to the Monaco and let's do a little electrification. I mean education about the Monaco.
So we're out here at the Monaco, and I've got a special guest with us. This is Jerry Kaiser, and he is with Rowe Electric. And you've been with Rowe now for 23 years, right? And Granite Ridge has been partnered with Rowe for 10 plus years. One of our best electricians that we've got. When we wanted to do the Monaco, we knew we wanted Jerry, this guy specifically on this job. And you've been out here for almost a solid month,
yeah.
Right?
Correct.
And we make a ton of changes on this house, and we've been doing it. And every change we make impacts Jerry, because adding the littlest thing, he's got to get power to it, right? Or change the plug location, or change. So from trim work to plumbing to HVAC to the flooring, all of that impacts what they're doing out here. So Jerry, let's just kind of talk about some of the basics when it comes to electrical. And we are standing in front of one of our electric panels.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, what line of service is coming to this house?
Okay, so we've got 600 amps.
600 amp. And traditionally for our homes, we do a 200 amp service.
Correct.
Sometimes we'll do a 400 amp service. 600 amp service is very rare for a residential home.
Yes, but they keep getting larger and larger these days, so we're kind of having to upsize these services for that reason.
Correct. They're getting larger and larger, but there's also more and more things that are plugging in, right?
Absolutely.
Like toilets, for example, right?
Yeah.
A bidet toilet or a heated seat. We've never, 20 years ago, never would have thought, we need to plug behind the toilet. But nowadays, we're doing that.
Yes.
Appliances are getting smarter. There's just everything goes down the line, and it always impacts us. So let's pull back just here and get into some of the basics. So you see we've got this electric panel here. It's clearly not done. Jerry hasn't gone through and finalized this panel out yet. We'll show you a picture of what that looks like. But there's a lot of different gauges of wire needed for this house, depending on what it is servicing in the house. And let's just go through what the word gauge means, or the term gauge means, and what variations of wire we'll have.
Gotcha. So typically you've got white wire, which is typically 14 gauge.
Yep.
We go yellow, which is 12, which is good for 20 amp. We don't have any 10 wire here. 10's normally orange.
Okay.
And we get into our larger sizes for ovens, ranges, those kind of things that take more car chargers.
Right.
So that wire is typically black.
Yeah. So we do have some of those EV car chargers here. Now you mentioned the colors. Probably 40 years ago, if you walked into a house, they were all just white.
Correct.
And you had to read on there to say, okay, is this a 12 gauge, 14 gauge? So you mentioned the 14 gauge. What would we typically be using that for in a house?
So typically 14 gauge would be used for lighting, bedroom receptacles, and that's generally about it.
Right. Yep, and then 12 gauge is going to be more great room, kitchen receptacles?
Kitchen receptacles, garages, bathrooms, those ones that take a higher demand for their load.
Higher demand. Jerry, we can't thank you enough. I could stand here all day long and talk to Jerry about electrical. I find it all extremely fascinating, but we do have to get him back to work, so he's not here for a whole nother month. So Jerry, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm still here with Jerry, but we had to talk about this because this is something that I found out almost 20 years ago when I started in the industry, and I just thought, man, that's fascinating and just such a simple way to do it. But these receptacles, it's not necessarily a code, but we put them 13 inches off of the subfloor here. But why do we do 13 inches?
It's just an easy trick for most electricians to have a hammer to come down on the subfloor and then set our box directly on top.
Right.
So
That's the only reason for it.
Yeah, and you already have the hammer because you're nailing
Right.
the box in. So you just put your hammer down, put the box there, pick the hammer back up, nail it in, you're moving on to the next one.
Correct.
Right? So again, just kind of a weird industry standard. Somebody came up with an idea. I don't need to pull my tape measure out every time. Bottom of my hammer works just as good.
Correct.
Thanks, Jerry. There's so much attention to detail with this electrical print. There's just so much to think about. Now, I've got a new face here. This is Alicia. This is a construction manager at Granite Ridge. She's worked with us for many, many years now. She works very closely with our project managers to make sure these houses are built the way that we expect them to be built and catches every one of those little details. Now, we're talking all about electrical today, and we've got the electrical blueprint behind us. Now, in this house, we have so many openings. Alicia, first of all, what is an opening? How many openings do we have on this house?
Yeah, Luke, so in a house this size, we have over 1,000 openings, which is a ton of electrical going into this home. So an opening is a space that's cut open basically for either a can light, a switch, an outlet, garage door opener, the doorbell chime. There's so many different things that go into the home.
Yeah, so anything that the drywaller has to make sure gets cut through that drywall, and hence the opening word. Now we have to communicate all of these details and all these openings to so many people, and we can't even, afford to miss one wire or a 1/10 of an inch mistake, so it is so crucial that it gets to the right people. But we have to create almost our own form of language, and we do that with a lot of symbols and ways that we can communicate these. Now, when we give these blueprints to people, sometimes it's like they're reading Latin. Yes, they can read the door opening, the window, but then they start looking at all these little symbols and they're thinking, what does this circle with an R mean? What does this circle with 2 lines? What are all these dollar signs all over the blueprint? And we probably need to take some time and just define a few of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's some examples of the symbols that we typically see on the electrical blueprints. The one we see the most would be the standard outlet, and that's a circle with 2 lines through it. But then we'll also see the symbol that looks like a dollar sign, and that's indicating a switch. But then also the dollar sign might have numbers next to it, and that's indicating that there's multiple locations that light can be turned on and off from. Then we also have a circle with 4 lines coming off of it and an RC, and that indicates a recessed can light. And I know all of these symbols may seem a little overwhelming, but don't worry. We have an amazing team of electrical experts to help walk you through this and explain everything, so you'll be experts by the end. So Luke, why do we call it a blueprint?
Yeah, as you can see behind us, that is not blue colored, but I started at Granite Ridge about 20 years ago. One of my first jobs I'll never forget is I had to make all of the copies. We didn't have a large printer that we could just hit, hey, make 30 copies. I had to take the original copy, then put it through this machine that reeked of ammonia, and then every copy that would come out would be this blue tint, and that's why they were blue. And you can see that on the screen here, what it used to look like. And better yet, nowadays, we can just access it all from our phone. I can pull up a print, I can zoom into whatever location I need to, and I have that access anytime. I don't need to carry around, I used to have to carry around this big, almost like traveling suitcase thing that had print after print after print. No need for that anymore. I'm so thankful for it.
Oh, Luke, I think the ammonia explains a lot.
What are you trying to say?
Oh, Luke.
That was a close call.
Imagine, you think this is bad. Imagine if it were dark.
Yeah, there are over 1 million injuries on staircase-related falls every year. But in this segment, we want to talk a lot, we're kind of rapid fire, all these stud tips when it comes to electrical layouts.
So Luke, with that many accidents, our #1 stud tip is to properly light the stairways. That is extremely important. Another stud tip would be to add night lights throughout the home. I have a small child, and having night lights is extremely helpful for those midnight bathroom breaks.
Yeah, or pathway lighting. Just having some of those hallways lit up just enough that you can see what you're doing without having to turn on every light in order to get there. And again, maybe in the middle of the night. Another big one is going to be motion sensor. So some of those secondary locations, laundry rooms, pantries, kids' closets, they can, the lights come on when they notice that somebody's walking in the room, or we can have it where when the door opens, it senses and tells the light to turn on, which could save a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with kids and they forget to turn the lights off, the closet door's closed, you don't realize it, could be on for a couple weeks.
Yeah, now probably the last one we want to cover in this segment is just those switches and outlet locations. It's hard to visualize how you're going to live in a house when it's in frame stage like this, but it's really important to try to walk into the room, kind of role play that and see, okay, does that switch feel like it's in the right location? Do I have enough switches? Do I have enough outlets? What am I going to use this room for? So spending that time to make sure those are in the right locations, because I want to say most people that move into our homes, one of the biggest regrets they have is possibly not putting enough outlets in, or the switches aren't in the exact spot that they would have liked it to be once they truly move into that space.
And Luke, one of my biggest complaints is putting the switch on the wrong side of the closet door.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, it's time to close.
Okay.
Hey, do you guys have any more stud tips or even energy savings tips concerning electricity?
I got one. Using motion sensors or door sensor lights can save you a ton of money because it automatically turns those lights off when you're not using them.
Yeah, there's a rumor that I leave the lights on in the bathroom. I don't believe it. For our smoke detectors, make sure you put them up high, because the thing is, you need to remember smoke rises, and that's why you place them up nice and high. And don't forget to change the batteries out. Sometimes it can be helpful to do it on a time change to remember to do it, or maybe even the new year, coming up with the time to change out those batteries.
And along those lines of safety, all Granite Ridge homes come with a carbon monoxide detector on every floor. But if you do not have a newer home like that, you need to make sure that you install one on every single floor, because it is a colorless, odorless gas, and it is deadly.
And as a fireman, you definitely know why.
Absolutely.
Now, if you want to save a little bit of money, $70 to $100 a year, simply by putting your electronic devices into sleep mode or unplugging them when you're not using them, could save you that much.
And also, when you're building your brand new Granite Ridge home, add those extra lights. Did you know that the difference between a 60-year-old, his retina, and a 20-year-old is about a third? So you need a third more light. I'm glad I'm not 60. I'm 69. But anyway, you need more light as you get older.
And for any room for comfort and ambience, you want to be sure to layer your lighting. That's very important.
And as a designer, I have to give a design tip. Color temperature is really important. It's a bugaboo of mine. So when you're at the store, pay attention to Kelvin temperature. That's when we're talking about color. If you go with 2700, it's going to be a lot closer to an incandescent bulb. It's a warmer light. If you go with 5000, don't do it. It's a hospital light. It's daylight blue, white. It is not good for our homes. 3000 is a really great temperature right now. It's a little bit in between that warm, cool, and it really shows off a lot of great features.
Design tip is adding dimmers to create ambiance and atmosphere. So use dimmers in large areas, great rooms, kitchens, even bathrooms, and use them on your layered lighting just to create just a wonderful atmosphere.
Hey, Kyla, time has run out. Would you close for us?
Thank you all so much for joining us today. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do so well, please pick up the phone and give us a call. Visit our website, or even better yet, come in our front doors. We'd love to talk to you all about electricity and the Monaco.
Hey, Kelly, you know that thing you're talking about with the light?
Yeah.
Go to Menards on a Saturday afternoon and look at all the men just staring at which one
No
are we
idea
supposed
what
to
to
get.
do.
It is one of those things that makes the home, as far as, I'm going to start again, sorry. It's her weave.
Just can't concentrate.
So as we were designing our magnificent,
Demonico.
Steak for everyone.
oh my God. Extra rare.
Obviously, all Granite Ridge homes come with a carbon monoxide detector on every floor of the home, but it is a silent, deadly killer that you can't smell it.
What's
Stop
so
it.
funny?
It's true, Izzy. It's a serious issue.
We're being teenage boys again.
It's an SPD.
Silent but deadly, huh? Yeah.
And it is a big bugaboo of mine. It's and I need to talk about color.
Oh
Oh my God.
You are in so much trouble tonight.
I just stay there.